The morning sun filtered through the curtains in Ginika's modest Sulere bungalow, casting long golden stripes across her parlor floor. A radio hummed softly in the background, playing old high-life music. But the melody couldn't soothe the ache in her chest. It had been 2 years since Papa Nonso, her beloved husband, took his last breath on their matrimonial bed. Sitting in her living room now, Ginika recalled last night's dream of her walking around in the Yaba cemetery where he is buried. She also remembered the day he died clearly, the frailty of his fingers as they trembled in hers, his breath short and shallow, his eyes clouded with nearness of death. Yet even then, his voice bore the weight of authority and love when he whispered, "Ginika, promise me, our son, he must marry a good girl, a woman who brings him peace, who will carry our name forward. Promise me, Ginika." She had promised. And Ginika Nadozie was not the kind of woman who broke promises, especially not to her late husband. She was a retired teacher, known for her stern demeanor, pressed blouses, and perfectly ironed wrappers. Though now 60 years of age, her posture was still erect, her mind sharp, her eyes vigilant, especially when it came to her only son, Nonso. Nonso, 30 years old, was every inch the man his father had prayed for. Tall, articulate, ambitious, recently promoted to bank manager and now living in a well-furnished duplex in Aja, Lagos Island. Nonso was a bachelor with a face that turned heads and a wallet that opened doors. But his choice in women was questionable.
Clara, that Ashawo on Instagram, that girl that gyrates like a grasshopper in hot oil just because she sings, that's who you want to marry. Nonso, my son.
Mommy, please, she's a passionate music artist.
She is passionately possessed.
The argument had boiled for weeks. It escalated until Ginika did what many mothers only fantasize about. She hired a private detective, Mr. Kolawole, a former police sergeant turned private detective. Kolawole spied on Clara for weeks, and he delivered damning videos of Clara having private parties with different men and clubbing at 3 a.m. with her tongue wagging like a thirsty lizard. Ginika didn't say a word to Nonso. She simply sent the videos anonymously to his email. Days later, Clara was out of the picture. But this victory did not quench Ginika's fire. It ignited it. She needed to find the right woman for Nonso herself. Someone rooted, kind-hearted, virtuous, and since the women Nonso usually met were Instagram slay queens, church fashion parades, or random Lagos girls with fake accents, Ginika took matters into her hands to be the one to find a wife for her son. Ginika came up with a crazy idea. She would disguise herself as a poor old beggar woman and see for herself which girl would treat her with kindness. Every morning, her loyal housemaid, Nkiru, who had served the family for nearly 25 years, would help her put on the disguise. Nkiru, now in her early 40s, had practically raised Nonso. Nkiru would powder Ginika's face with ash, stain her wrapper with charcoal, and even stuffed cotton balls in her mouth to distort her face. "I look convincing, right?" Ginika asked one morning, admiring herself in a mirror. "You look like a suffering masquerade," Nkiru replied, and continued, "But remember, this your Nollywood plan. Make it no backfire." Ginika only smiled, and thus began the wife hunt of the century. The first girl Ginika approached was a tall Brazilian wig-wearing slay queen in green dress. Ginika hobbled over with a bag of heavy load. "My daughter, help me carry this to the junction." The slay queen paused, adjusted her sunglasses, looked Ginika up and down like she was a cockroach on Gucci carpet, and hissed, "Abeg, carry your poverty come out from my front. Look at this old woman. Are you mad or something?" She strutted off, leaving Ginika frozen in disbelief. The second girl was even worse. She took Ginika's bag with a fake smile, then quickly entered a keke napep and zoomed off. The third encounter nearly gave Ginika high blood pressure. She had barely asked a girl named Tolu for little food when Tolu snapped, "Are you people not tired? Every day beg, 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 beg. Why didn't you give birth to children that will help you, instead of disturbing working class women like me?" Ginika nearly removed her disguise that day to slap sense into her. But fate had a sense of humor. On a hot Tuesday morning, as she sat by the roadside, pretending to be hungry, she heard a sweet voice call out,
Mama, you want to eat oba?
Ginika looked up and saw a stunning ebony beauty. She pushed a wheelbarrow neatly arranged with oba, wrapped in fresh banana leaves. Her skin glistened with sweat, but her smile could melt stubborn hearts. I would love to, my daughter, but I'm a poor old woman with no money, Ginika told her.
Take and eat, Mama. Money is not everything.
The beautiful oba seller said, placing 2 warm oba into Ginika's palm. Tears welled up Ginika's eyes. This was the first kindness she had gotten ever since she started pretending to be a poor, homeless, old, hungry woman. So Ginika asked her, "What is your name, my daughter?"
I am Nancy, and I will help you in my own little way, Mama.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Where are your parents?
My parents are no longer alive. I sell oba to save money for my university education. I desire to be a graduate.
Ginika was so touched by Nancy's story. Every day that week, Nancy repeated this gesture of giving free food to Ginika. No scorn, no judgment, just kindness. Ginika returned home, glowing like someone who just won a lottery. Nkiru, Nkiru, she screamed. I have found her. I have found the angel. Her name is Nancy, and she sells oba. Nkiru looked skeptical and said, Is it because she gave you oba? Is that the requirement now for a good wife? No, Ginika replied. She is pure, gentle, hardworking. I have seen it in her eyes. She has compassion. After weeks of studying her, Ginika invited Nancy to her house under the pretense of giving her a gift for her kindness. Nancy was hesitant but curious because she never knew the old woman had a house. When they arrived, Nkiru welcomed them and led Ginika to the back room and helped remove her disguise. When Nkiru was done, Ginika transformed from an old beggar woman to an elegant, distinguished elderly lady. Nancy's jaw dropped. Mama, she whispered, clutching her chest. Don't be afraid, my daughter, Ginika said gently. Let me explain. They went inside the living room and Ginika revealed the entire plan, the fake disguise, the search for a perfect wife for her son, the promise to her dying husband. Nancy's eyes watered. I just wanted a good girl for my son. Eventually, Ginika suggested that Nancy should meet Nonso, her son. But to ensure that Nonso accepts Nancy as his wife, Ginika, in desperation, came up with a cooked-up story. She told Nonso that she had fainted on the roadside and was rushed to a nearby clinic, that a lady called Nancy happened to be there visiting her aunt, that when the hospital asked for a blood donor, Nancy didn't hesitate. She saved her life without asking for money. A girl like that is rare. She's an angel, Ginika said to Nonso, her eyes shimmering with fake tears. Nancy was uncomfortable, but reluctantly agreed to go along with the fake blood donation story. When Nonso finally met Nancy, the connection was instant. She was graceful, soft-spoken, resplendently beautiful, and knowing that she had saved his mother's life, it sealed the deal. Nonso was in love. They began dating. 3 months later, they were married in a colorful ceremony that united their worlds. But then, after the marriage, everything changed. Nancy had transformed from an angel into a tyrant. The first sign was subtle. Ginika had gone to visit them in Aja, expecting a warm welcome. Nancy greeted her coldly. Mommy, I wish you told us you planned to sleep over. We are not prepared. Ginika smiled awkwardly. Nancy, it's okay. I will manage. No. Nancy cut in. I mean, there is no extra food. Nonso said nothing. He just stood beside Nancy, nodding his head like Agama lizard. During another visit, Nancy complained, Mama, your perfume is too strong. I'm allergic to strong scents. Please tone it down. Ginika was shocked. Her perfume? Nancy would even raise her voice at Nonso in Ginika's presence. Nonso, I said, throw that away. Must I say everything twice? Are you a child? And to Ginika's shock, Nonso, her son, would mumble an apology and obey her like a whipped puppy. Ginika once entered their kitchen to boil water and found a sticky note on the kettle. "Mommy, please ask before using. Electric bill is expensive." When Ginika asked Nonso privately if he was okay, he sighed and said, "Nancy, my wife, is just particular about things. It's not that deep." But it was deep. Because Ginika normally gets monthly upkeep money every month from her son. But since he got married, he stopped sending his mom money. Ginika called her son to find out why he stopped giving her upkeep money. Nonso sighed and said there was no reason. But Ginika pressed her son and he responded, "Mom, I haven't sent it because Nancy said we should focus on our own home for now." Ginika almost collapsed. One day, she called Nonso to her house in Sulere. When he finally came, she confronted him. "How can your wife tell you not to care for me? I am your mother, Nonso. Have I become a beggar in your eyes?" Nonso looked away and replied, "I am sorry, Mommy. Nancy said we need to prioritize, but I'll try and squeeze something out." Ginika sighed and asked, "And why haven't you guys conceived? Is Nancy barren?" "No, Mommy," Nonso quickly replied. "She said we should enjoy our marriage first." "Enjoy?" Ginika asked in anger. "Are you people on honeymoon after a whole year of marriage? Don't you know you are my only son?" When Nancy heard that Nonso had discussed this issue with his mother, she exploded. "So you are now Mommy's boy, telling your mother everything we see. Who is she to ask about our bedroom plans? Are you a man or a puppet?" Nonso could barely look up. The only time Nancy became a sweet, loving wife was during salary week. Massaging his shoulder and cooking delicious meals for him. And then came her request, which is a long list starting with her upkeep money, new hair, nails, spa, ashwebi, and random emergency money, and the list goes on. 80% of Nonso's salary disappeared each month, just meeting the financial needs of his wife, Nancy. Ginika sat in her living room, staring at the ceiling, a tear slipping down her cheek. How had she birthed an heir and ended up watching him live like a servant? How had her angel become a demon? She promised her late husband peace for their son, but since Nancy came into their family, peace had become a luxury. The air was heavy that afternoon, thick with dust, silence, and the ache of regret. Ginika stood motionless before the grave of her late husband at Yaba Cemetery, Lagos. The tombstone and overgrown shrubs had become her last place of refuge, the one place where she could speak without being judged, scream without scaring anyone, and confess without being interrupted. She dropped to her knees beside the marble slab bearing Kenneth Nadozie, beloved husband and father. Her voice cracked and she whispered, "Kenneth, my dear husband, I have failed. I tried to do good. I tried to find love for our son, but I went too far." Tears spilled down her cheeks like a tap she could no longer control. Her lips quivered as memories flooded in of her husband's warmth, his warning never to manipulate fate, his gentle laughter that once soothed her storms. "I brought Nancy into this house through manipulation," Ginika sobbed. "I found her on the street selling oppa. I thought she was a kind-hearted girl because she gave me free oppa. I lied to Nonso that she donated blood just to win his heart. I thought it would bring us peace, bring him love, and give us grandchildren. Instead, she turned me into her number one enemy." Her hands gripped the dry earth, nails digging in as she wailed. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense anymore. Exhausted and overwhelmed and emotionally emptied, Ginika slumped beside the grave and slipped into a strange trance, drifting into sleep like a child rocked by grief. She was in a dream, a bright, blinding light surrounding her. In the center stood Kenneth, dressed in a sparkling white dress, his eyes steady and voice calm like it always was. Ginika, he said, go to the fast food joint at Body Thomas Junction. Go now. The truth is waiting. Ginika quickly woke up from the dream. The sun had shifted. Nearly an hour had passed. Her head was spinning from the vision, but the message rang in her ears like a bell that refused to fade. She wiped her tears, stood up with trembling legs, and headed straight for Body Thomas Street. The fast food joint was bustling, but Ginika wasn't hungry. She hovered outside, peering through the large glass windows. Her breath caught, her knees nearly buckled. Inside, sitting comfortably at a corner table, was Nancy, laughing, grinning, and chewing a hefty spoonful of jollof rice like the worries of life had never touched her. And sitting across from her was Nkiru, Ginika's housemaid, her most trusted confidant, her house help of many years. Nancy and Nkiru clinked bottles of malt together like old friends and continued laughing, their plates piled with rice, chicken, and fried plantain. It felt like a dagger to Ginika's soul. She hid quickly behind a parked car, breathing in gaps, watching them. Then came the final blow. Nancy reached into her bag and brought out a fat bundle of cash. She handed the money over to Nkiru casually, and Nkiru collected it and smiled. Ginika didn't wait to see them leave. Her hands were trembling, heart hammering like Okada engine on Third Mainland Bridge. She needed answers, and there was only one man she could turn to. Suspicious and shaken by what she had witnessed at the fast food joint, Ginika wasted no time. She picked up her phone and called Mr. Kolawole, the same private detective who had once helped her uncover Clara, the musician's secrets. With urgency in her voice, she instructed him to trail Nkiru, her longtime housemaid, and dig into every corner of her connection with Nancy. Ginika needed the truth, no matter how ugly it was. 2 weeks later, Kolawole called Ginika into his office for a meeting. Madam Ginika, Detective Kolawole said, rubbing his bald head. What I'm about to tell you is deep. Sit down. Ginika sat, gripping her purse. The detective laid out evidence in form of photograph, voice recording, receipt, printed WhatsApp chats, and bank transactions. Her heart beat faster with each reveal. She played you, Kolawole began. Your maid Nkiru. She orchestrated the entire thing. Nancy is her cousin from Enugu. They both cooked up a plan to get rich off your son. Ginika blinked rapidly. What? My Nkiru? Yes, he said grimly. Nancy never sold Oba in her life. Nkiru dressed her up, disguised her, even taught her how to act like a poor kind-hearted girl. The idea was to get close to you, so you would vouch for her, recommend her to your son, and once she was inside the house, the real plan would begin. Ginika gripped the table. Her lips quivered. Nancy has a crush in Enugu. That is why she never intended to get pregnant for your son, Nonso, Kolawole continued. She has been sending money to her man named Chijioke in Enugu, her real boyfriend. I have bank transfers here. She has sent over 8.2 million naira to Chijioke, her man in Enugu. Kolawole slipped out printouts towards Ginika. The paper trembled in her hand, and Kolawole continued. She plans to milk Nonso of his money, save enough, and return to Enugu to marry Chijioke. Meanwhile, Nkiru gets her own cut of the money every month. He pulled out a flash drive. Here are phone call recordings of Nkiru coaching Nancy. I tapped her phone as you requested. Let me play this one here. Kolawole clicked play, and it was Nancy's voice telling Nkiru that when she is done collecting that Mumu Nonso's life savings, she would disappear to Enugu and give the money to Chijioke so that he can marry her. Ginika stared blankly at the wall, her soul cracking, betrayed by the woman who raised her son, betrayed by the girl she helped. Her vision blurred, her breathing stopped, then she collapsed. It took almost 5 minutes and cold water to revive her. She gasped awake, clutching her chest, tears flowing afresh. I have to tell Nonso, she screamed. She rushed to the bank where her son worked, heels clicking wildly, eyes swollen. Nonso was in the middle of a corporate meeting when his mother barged in. Seeing her face, he didn't ask questions. He excused himself and led her into an empty room. Mommy, what is wrong? Ginika collapsed into a chair. My son, I made a mistake. Nancy is not who you think she is. She is worse. She poured it all out, the fast food sightings, the detective findings, the voice recordings, the money trail, the betrayal. Nonso sat motionless, face tight, jaw clenched. Then Ginika played the recordings. It was in Kiru's voice. Just hold the Mumu boy well. Now that you are married to him, make sure you obtain cool cash from him. Don't give birth to because he's not your real husband. Then Nancy's voice.
It's Chijeke I love, not this soft, foolish Nonso.
Nonso's fist slammed into the table and said with pain in his voice, Nkiru, that looked after me when I was a kid. I took her as my own big sister and I trusted her. How could she plan all this evil behind my back? Nonso looked like a man punched in the stomach. Everything he believed was crumbling. He rose up, eyes red. I will deal with them both, he screamed. That evening, the gates of Nonso's mansion burst open. Nancy, seated in the living room watching Netflix, didn't hear Nonso enter. He stormed in like thunder. You think I'm stupid? She turned.
Baby, what is it?
Before she could finish, her clothes were already flying through the air. Bags, shoes, everything. Get out of my house. Your little deceptive game is up, Nonso barked. Nancy's guilty heart skipped and she said,
Nonso, please, let me explain.
Nonso cut her off, yelling, Shut up! Nancy, explain what? That you and Nkiru plan to ruin me? That you have been sending my money to your broke boyfriend in Enugu?
It wasn't like that. I was scared. I didn't know it would go this far. Baby, please forgive me.
Ha ha ha! Oh, you think I am soft? You thought I was one of those mumu rich boys you can play like Opa on a tray. He grabs her box of belongings and flings it out of the door violently. I will show you soft. Get out of my house, Nancy. Nancy drops to her knees, weeping.
Please, Nonso, don't do this. I was going to tell you the truth. I swear.
The only truth you will tell is to your Enugu lover when you hand him the last dime you stole from me. Now get out. He shoves her outside and slams the gate shut. At the same time, Ginika arrived at her home in Sulere, and Nkiru rushed out to greet her. Mama Nonso, welcome. Ginika slapped her so hard, her head tie shifted. Get out of my house, you betrayer. I know you planted that bitch called Nancy or whatever into my family. Nkiru was shocked that she had been found out, and she got on her knees and tried to explain. Madam, please let me explain. Shut up, Ginika cut her off and threw her out with her bags and ordered the gate man never to let her in again. The next day, Nonso visited his mother. They sat quietly in the parlor, the air thick with pain and humility. Mommy, sorry for all I have put you through. Ginika shook her head, eyes brimming. No, Nonso, I am the one who is sorry. I was so desperate to see you married that I lied to you about Nancy donating blood. That never happened. Nonso stared in shock. I made it up, she continued. I wanted you to like her. I wanted you to settle down. I was wrong. Nonso exhaled slowly and replied, We have both learned a hard lesson. They sat closely, mother and son, their hearts beating with the pain of betrayal and the hope of healing. The next day, they stood side by side at Kenneth's grave. Nonso placed fresh flowers on the grave. Ginika whispered, Kenneth, my husband, I am sorry. I should have listened to your voice. Guide us from here. Watch over your son. Forgive us. They bowed their heads in silence. The sun broke through the clouds, gentle and forgiving rays. Somewhere in the wind, a presence stirred. A peace, a promise that no matter how dark the road became, his spirit would walk beside them, silent, unseen, but forever guiding, and they would never walk alone.